Hi, I'm John Pothast. I'm the superintendent for the Humboldt Unified School District, and I appreciate you taking time to join me today. I want to talk a little bit. In the upcoming November election, HUSD has a bond and an override proposal on the ballot in the election. And I want to spend a few minutes to talk about what that means and what the bond and override are. So first of all, I want to talk about the bond and an override and what those are. And to understand that, we have to understand that first, our main funding from the state comes in two pools of money. One is capital money, capital projects, and the other one is called maintenance and operations. Capital deals with all the things like buildings and facilities and maintenance and repairs, and then M&O primarily is based on people. That's the operations of our district and paying salaries and everything. And so the bond applies to all of the capital projects, and the override applies to the M&O, which is the salaries. And so we'll talk about what all of that is on the election and on the ballot. But I want to give a brief history of why we are where we're at. When we look at funding from the state for HUSD over the past decade, we have not been funded to the full extent by the state that we should have been. The state funds us. They have a formula that determines, and I'm talking the capital budget right now, they have a formula that determines how much we should receive from the state, and then we get, based on that, how much they actually give us. And when you look at the difference between that over the last 10 years, we have actually lost, HUSD has lost roughly $20 million. We've been cut short in that amount of money in the last decade. The worst of it was back in 1915 or 2015-16. By formula, HUSD should have received $3.6 million in capital funding, when in reality, the state actually only gave us $300,000. So we were cut short just over $3 million in the 15-16 school year alone. And that money is what we would use to upgrade our facilities, to maintain our facilities, to repair any broken equipment. And so when you take a look at that amount of discrepancy over the past decade, like I said, we've lost about $20 million in state funding. We're in desperate need of some money to help restore and refurbish the existing facilities that we have as they are. So that's a little background on where we have been, where we came from. The bond itself, the bond side, the capital side, comes down to there's 5 categories that we're looking at spending money in that for the bond. The first one is safety and security, infrastructure for our students, technology and improvements, renovation and repairs overall, some new facility construction, and mechanics and roofing. So on the screen right now, you'll see the breakdown of what that looks like. The safety and security is for our buildings. It's just that. It's to make our schools and facilities safe for kids. Technology, the biggest chunk of money for the technology is devices for staff and students, which is just over $3 million of that $7 million for that category. Renovations, that's a big part of what I just talked about, the fact that we have a big chunk of things that are in disrepair over 10 years of not being funded. And so that's where that money is going to go. The new facilities construction, the biggest thing there is a performing arts center at the high school. That's roughly half of that, or it's about $7 million of that $11 million in that category. And then the mechanics and roofing. The mechanical is a big part of that is air conditioning units. We've got a fleet of very old air conditioning units in our buildings, and so it's redoing our roofing and our mechanics for the building. So when we look at the bond, and one of the big questions that we get asked by the community is, so the bottom line is, what's the cost of the bond to your average taxpayer? The bond and the price of the bond is based on, it's going to be 34 cents per $100 of assessed value of your home based on the secondary valuation. So $100,000, if your home is worth $100,000, that's roughly $2.80 per month that your tax bill would go up based on a $100,000 home or a home that's assessed at $100,000. If you had a $200,000 home, you just double that, and so we're looking at about $5.60 per month that your tax rate would go up to support the bond for our school district. So that's the bond side of things. The override focuses on the maintenance and operations. And like I said, that primarily is teacher salaries. When we look at M&O override, an override comes from the fact that the state gives us M&O budget. They, like the capital budget, they give us money for teacher salaries and for the maintenance and operations of our facilities and buildings. We, as a district, when you have an override, you can select a percentage of how much of that you're asking to collect from the community to go over that. And we are asking for a 5% override. So the way that works is for the first 5 years, you take 5% of what your M&O budget from the state comes from, and because there is a slight increase every year in the M&O budget, it does change from year to year, but in year one, it would be roughly $1.7 million in additional money that we would be getting. And the point and our purpose of using that money is on counselors and social workers in our schools. When we take a look at what the National School Counselor Association recommends is that you have one counselor for every 250 students. The state of Arizona average is just under 1,000. It's about 900 to 1. In HUSD, our counselor to student ratio is one counselor for every 1,500 students. So as you can see, as a district, we're significantly over the recommended and even in the state average. And our intent on the M&O budget override, or the override, is to provide counselors and social workers and make sure that we have at least one in every one of our schools to meet the social emotional needs of our students. Now, more than ever important for our students as we're helping them navigate some pretty significant crisis situations. The cost of the override, just like the bond, is broken down. It's roughly 36 cents per every $100 of assessed value based on the secondary valuation. And so again, looking at over at a month, that if your home is worth $100,000, if it's assessed at $100,000, that would be roughly $3 per month that your tax bill would go up to support our students in their needs. So coming up next, we have 3 special guests who are going to be talking about the bond and override, and they're going to give some more specifics about when we take a look at the bond and the override and what the big significant chunks of money are that we're asking for. They're going to give a little more detail. And so we've got Patty and Patrick and Dave. They're going to be up and they're going to be our guests, and we'll talk more about what that looks like in their departments.